of a guru. The actual word, let's start there. The actual Sanskrit word of guru is made up of two different parts, gu and ru. Gu is darkness, ru is the remover of that darkness. So a guru is one who removes our darkness. But then, of course, the question becomes, what type of darkness? What is that darkness? If in Indian spiritual tradition, as we were speaking about earlier, of who we are and the core of who we are and the essence is pure and perfect and divine and whole and complete, and we've been created of the Creator, not just by the Creator. Well then, what darkness? That darkness is the darkness of ignorance. There's no sense in this culture of darkness at the core of who you are. Even the demons are demons because of their false identification, their ego, their greed, their lust, their arrogance. It's not a sense of darkness at the core of the self, darkness in the very essence of the being, but rather that essence, that core, has been covered, as with so many of us, all of us mostly, with ignorance and that false identification with the body, with our history, with what we look like, where we've been, what we've achieved, what our bank balance looks like, how we measure up in the society, what sort of certificates we have on our walls. And so we start identifying as that. From that identification comes darkness. Greed, anger, depression, all of that which we would consider quote-unquote sinful springs out of that darkness of ignorance. If, for example, I realize that you and I are one, that there's divinity at the core of who I am and divinity at the core of who you are, then there's no question of me cheating you or lying to you or abusing you or injuring you in some way. Because A, we're one, and B, who you are is divine. So anything that enables me to betray you or lie to you or cheat to you or abuse you is ignorance. Anything that allows us to abuse ourselves, to abuse our planet, to abuse anything, to act out of lust or greed or anger is due to this identification. What causes anger? Well, unfulfilled expectations typically. And if I've expected something and I've identified with what I've expected, I'm living in ignorance. I'm not aware then that I'm already full, I'm already complete, I'm already whole, I'm already divine. I don't need what that person's going to do or say or how they're going to talk to me or how they're going to receive this project or whether I'm going to get a promotion. And if there aren't those expectations, then there isn't the anger at the lack of fulfillment of the expectations. And if there's no anger, then I tend not to be acting out of it. So you see how we spiral. So that's a very basic glimpse of what we would call darkness. The Guru comes in and shines the light. It's beautifully, beautifully said that there's no point in fighting darkness. We just need to light a candle. And that's what the Guru does. The Guru comes in as the light and shines the light. And, you know, in the West, we frequently misdefine Guru as a teacher. And yet, as I always explain, you know, the core difference is that a teacher can give you information, even skills, knowledge, but not experience. And so if you take a class, for example, with the most brilliant teacher of oceanography, you will learn everything there is to know about the ocean. What lives in it, what it's made of, how wide it is, how deep it is, all of the fantastic, beautiful information about the ocean. But when you stand up and walk out of that class, your clothes will still be dry. With the Guru, if a Guru were giving you oceanography, not only would you learn about the ocean, but your clothes would be dripping wet. You actually would have the experience of being in the ocean. So the Guru not only tells us about light, and about truth, and about peace, and about bliss, and about God, but actually in the Guru's presence, we have the experience, the spiritual equivalent of having soaking wet clothes. That we're in the presence of love and light and God and truth and bliss and peace. And then the question becomes, well, do we need one? In theory, no. Because in theory, all of those things are our birthright. Love and light and joy and bliss and peace and truth are our birthright. It's the nature of who we are. And yet, if you're like most of us, you're not able to actually experience most of that in our lives. We tend to stay caught in the darkness, caught in the ignorance, caught in the false identification. And so what the Guru does is bring us onto that path and give us that experience. And then show it to us within ourselves. So the whole nature of who we are, how we understand ourselves, how we understand the world, everything changes. Everything shifts from dark to light. But the last point that I want to mention about that is because our egos as disciples, the egos come into play. And what ends up happening, another beautiful analogy that's given about the Guru, is as a potter sitting at a wheel with clay that he's turning into a bowl or something beautiful. And what we've got is a lump of clay. Full potential, full everything, but nonetheless a lump of clay. But on the potter's wheel, what does the potter do? Spins that wheel, hitting that lump of clay every time it goes around from every side, and turns it into something that's exquisite, And not only exquisite, but in most cases actually useful. Cups, bowls, vases, and exquisite ones. But in order to turn that lump of clay into that, the potter has to keep hitting it, whacking it in many cases. And so, although the Guru is doing his part, as disciples, we also have to let ourselves be whacked around. Otherwise, we just stay a lump of clay. And sure, it may be more comfortable than to be spun around until you don't know which end is up and whacked at every turn. But if in our lives we actually have a goal, a vision of being useful, beneficial, exquisite as a bonus, we have to let ourselves be spun around and whacked by the Guru. So it takes from the disciple also an openness to the presence of the light, to the capital T truth of the light, to a relinquishing of our darkness, because otherwise the darkness is very alluring. We like to hang on to it. We know it very well. So an openness to that. And then allowing ourselves to be literally whacked into shape.